What is critical race theory and what's wrong with it?
All right. So, when I was writing that section of the book, I had intended to put all three of those into one chapter because the book is not about that. The book is about a Catholic response to racism. Mm-hmm. But I felt that I needed to address those because people are saying we need to incorporate these to help close the racial divide. Mm-hmm. And so I had heard about critical race theory. And so I said, well, let me understand what this is. I don't want to read what some political pundit has to say about it or some critic. So I got the books by Janine Stefanik, Richard Delgado, Derek Bell, Kimberly Crenshaw. These were the founders of critical race theory. And I read their books to understand
Good for you.
what it is that they're talking about. And it took me a month just to write that, because just to get my mind around the terms they were using, which I never heard before, and the concept. It's actually a very complicated concept. So I said, well, wait a minute, where did this come from? So I had to trace the history back and then move it forward to show why it's incompatible with Christianity. So critical race theory comes out of critical legal theory from the 1970s. So critical legal theory looked at, even though civil rights laws have changed, the attitudes haven't changed. So the example I use in the book is from a golf course that was bought by a evangelical church in Texas, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They bought the golf course not to buy a golf course, but they bought it because they want to control what's being built around them, around this community. So when they bought the golf course, they were learning the history of it, and they learned it was all white, and there were no people of color allowed to golf. And so when the laws changed, the civil rights laws changed and all of that, one of the guys on the board of the golf was like, okay, great, I got this friend who's black, he would love to play here, And so the rules were, any new members had to be nominated by the board, and they'd had to have the majority of the board approve the person. So this guy brought his friend, but every person of color that was brought there was not approved.
When was this? What year?
So this would have been in the 80s.
Wow.
So even though the laws changed,
the attitude hadn't.
That's what critical legal theory looked at. But that comes out of critical theory from the 1920s, which came out of Marx and Freud's dialectical materialism, which came out of the Hegelian dialectic. So I'm like, wait a minute. So then how do we get from Hegel all the way down to critical race theory? So, Hegel posits this thesis, antithesis that leads to a new synthesis, okay? So you have an idea, you have a contrary idea, the tension between the two leads to a new idea, which he calls...
Which is a better idea, presumably.
Which is a better idea. What Marx did, and Freud, he took Hegel's concept and applied it to politics and to sociology. So now you have the proletariat and the bourgeois, right? Thesis, antithesis, the tension leads to a new synthesis, which ended up being communism or socialism, socialist communism from Marx. And so, but the thing that the thesis, antithesis, what causes that new synthesis is tension, conflict, struggle.
That sounds familiar.
And that's the hermeneutic or the interpretive key that's fed all the way down to critical race theory today. That's the thread that's common when you trace the history all the way back and then forward. Tension, struggle, conflict to affect change. Now I'm thinking to myself, that's not a Christian approach to change. Tension, conflict, struggle. So now you get critical race theory. Now for them, race is not about biological distinction or characterization within a species. So it's not about I'm black, I'm Hispanic, I'm Asian, I'm Irish. It's not about nationality, right? I'm Mexican, I'm Italian, I'm Nigerian. It's not about that. It's a social construct. So race is a socially constructed phenomenon in which the people of the dominant race suppress and oppress people of the other races. For them, that's what racism is.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought about the video.